Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 104, Meno 82a to b. According to the story Socrates has told Meno, learning is actually recollection. The empty-headed human has to look inwards into this soul where all knowledge resides, because the soul has seen everything in its many lives, both here and in Hades. I'm assuming we're not in Hades at the moment. Socrates' object in telling this story is to eliminate the objection that Meno had raised that we cannot learn. Obviously, we can learn if all knowledge is already in the soul. All we have to do is look for it. The problem is it would take some effort. And this may be one of the reasons why Meno then says, "Can you teach me that this is so?" This is another avoidance tactic Meno adopts now and then by asking Socrates to teach him. Meno doesn't have to think for himself. He can just sit back and listen passively. Socrates puts a stop to this immediately by accusing Meno of being wicked by intentionally setting a trap for Socrates. By asking Socrates to teach him, were Socrates to agree to teach him, Socrates would be contradicting himself, because teaching would be external, would come from someone else and not from the internal source, the soul, which knows everything. Meno, of course, couldn't possibly think up something so sophisticated, and this, in fact, is something Meno himself confesses. Maton dia, o Socrates, prostuto blepsas epon, al hupotu ethus. No, buys you, Socrates, not looking to this did I speak, but from habit. Meno does have a point here. This is how he usually learns, or think he learns. He asks people to teach him. The people who do teach him are sophists. It's just Meno's luck, whether good or bad, that he is now in the hands of Socrates, who is not a sophist. Meno continues, Al epos moeches endexastai hoti echechos perleges endexai. But if somehow you can show me that it is as you say, then show me. We should keep this in mind for the next engagement, that it's Meno who suggests that instead of teaching, we've just realized that teaching doesn't work, then perhaps Socrates could show him. Is showing different from teaching? Yes, it is. Apparently, for Meno, teaching involves telling someone what the truth is. That's the way Meno understands. But showing, or simply pointing at something, does not involve talking, does not involve someone telling the other person an opinion. This would be reality. Meno may have thought that he solved the problem by allowing Socrates not to teach him, but simply show him, but it really isn't any different from teaching, from the point of view of showing that knowledge is from within, knowledge is in the soul, and it is up to the owner of that soul to look inwards, to make an effort and find the knowledge there. We might object that the soul came to know everything in the first place by seeing, and a case could be made that showing someone something allows them to see it, and in that way they get to know. In the spirit of charity, we could say that Meno justifiably asks to see and thereby learn that the only way to learn is to look inwards and seek the knowledge which the soul already has because it has seen everything in past lives. A Platonist will say that I'm being too literal, but if that is the case, then good. I need to be literal in order to understand this dialogue and not Platonism. Platonism is a fabrication made from cherry-picking some sentences from various dialogues and just pasting them together. This is not what we are doing here. We want to understand this dialogue. For example, it's interesting that Socrates did object to teaching Meno, but now he doesn't object to showing Meno. Will Meno, just like the soul in previous lives, learn something by seeing it? Will he see that a human with no knowledge at all looks into his own soul and discovers knowledge? This is harder than you might think, and in fact Socrates makes the same point. Al estimen u radion homoste thelo prothume thenai suhenaka. Well, it's not easy, but nevertheless I want to be willing to do it for your sake. Allah moi proskaleson ton polon akoluthon tutoni ton sautu hena hontina bule hina entuto soi epidexomai. But call to me one of your many attendants here, these ones here, whomever you like, so that I may show you in this person. Socrates emphasizes that what he has to show is occurring in someone else, and he states that this is not easy. It should have been up to Meno to conclude that it is impossible to see what's going on in someone else. You can infer from results, but you cannot see what's going on. Now we find out for the first time that Meno and Socrates are not alone. There are many, many attendants of Meno. Right there, the demonstrative pronoun Socrates uses emphasizes their proximity. We may add this information to the earlier leaked information that they were near fish. At 80A, Meno evidently points to this narke, this torpedo fish. So this may well be the Agora in Athens, and there is a crowd of people who are within hearing of Socrates and Meno, which may indicate that we are to suppose that Socrates is talking not only for the benefit of Meno, but also for that audience. But he's interestingly not speaking like an eristician who requires an audience in order to beat the opponent. Here, we didn't even know there was an audience until now. Socrates isn't concerned with beating Meno. Meno must be happy that Socrates has agreed to put on a show for him instead of engaging him in inquiry, and he is happy to find a suitable candidate. Panuge, diuro proselthe. Absolutely. Come here. Helen menesti kai Helenitze. Panuges fodra oikogeneske. Is he Greek, and does he have Greek culture? Yes, indeed, very much so. He's homegrown. The demonstration, whatever it was supposed to prove, is already a failure because this attendant is Greek and has a Greek culture. This is not an empty vessel. There are already floating about in the head of this person concepts, ideas, language, when ideally we should have had someone who was virtually a zombie. But you might object that Socrates needed to ask if the slave had a Greek culture in order to be able to have a conversation with him. But this is to forget that Meno just ordered the person in Greek to approach them. If the question is not to be considered completely redundant, the only possibility is that Socrates wanted Meno to think whether this specimen of a human being is what they need in order to prove the point that someone with no knowledge at all can acquire the knowledge which is present in the soul. This person has some knowledge, at least in Meno's view of knowledge. This person knows things. This person knows language, for example. Not as well as someone who has studied with sophists, but still not someone completely lacking in language. The whole point of the account is to show that someone completely ignorant can learn through recollecting knowledge residing in the soul, which actually has complete knowledge. This person actually suffers from the same condition that we all have, being in a state of knowledge between total ignorance and complete knowledge. It's precisely this situation which allows for learning. And it is also this situation which Socrates cannot explain to Meno because it's too complicated for Meno. Meno thinks in black and white. Does Socrates really expect Meno to see anything and through seeing learn anything? Of course not. And here we come to the point of the exercise. I'll just say the first few words of Socrates' next sentence. Proseche de ton nun. This, I imagine, is usually translated, pay attention. But what it actually says is hold forth the intellect. Hold forth that part of your soul which does the thinking. This is the nous, or as some people in England say, the nous. Socrates does not want Meno simply to look at what is going on. He wants Meno to think. And how does he want him to think? Not simply remember what is said, but to compare, contrast, and work out for himself what is actually happening. Let's see next time if Meno does start to think for himself.